In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, welcome to another session of Finding God. We are still on chapter 73, and I think we will carry it forward for this week and the week after, and then we'll be done with Surah Al-Anbiya, which is the prophets. Last week we talked roughly about the message and the context and the prophets in general. We were building up to it, and this week we'll be talking about the story of Abraham. And if you recall from the previous session, the previous chapter, so they were talking about the chapter was called Abraham, but Abraham's story wasn't central to the chapter. It was mentioned later. It was mentioned briefly, and then the subsequent chapter, which is this one, there's a whole section about Abraham and other prophets. So, which just goes to show how things like this are planned by our Lord, and it also shows you that there's a chronology. So last time I stopped here, right, and this is a blessed reminder which we have sent down, will you then dare to deny it? So I'll carry on forward from here in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. And indeed we bestowed aforetime on Abraham his portion of guidance, and we were well acquainted with him as his belief in the oneness of God. When he said to his father and his people, "What are these images to which you are devoted?" They said, "We found our fathers worshipping them." He said, "Indeed, you and your fathers have been in manifest error." They said, "Have you brought us the truth, or are you one of those who play about?" He said, "Nay, your Lord is the Lord of the heavens and the earth, who created them, and to that I am one of the witnesses. And by God, I shall plot a plan to destroy your idols after you have gone away and turned your backs." So he brought them to pieces, all except the biggest of them, that they might turn to it. They said, "Who has done this to our Aliha, our gods? He must indeed be one of the Zalimun, the wrongdoers." They said, "We heard a young man talking against them who is called Abraham." They said, "Then bring him before the eyes of the people that they may testify." They said, "Are you the one who has done this to our gods, O Abraham?" Abraham said, "Nay, this one, the biggest of them idols did it. Ask them if they can speak." So they turned to themselves and said, "Verily, you are the Zalimun, the polytheists and wrongdoers." Then they turned to themselves their first thought and said, "Indeed, you, Abraham, know well that these idols speak not." And Abraham said, "Do you then worship besides God things that can neither profit you nor harm you? Fie upon you and upon that which you worship besides God. Have you then no sense?" They said, "Burn him and help your gods if you will be doing." Burn him and help your gods if you will be doing. What does that mean? This maybe it's saying burn him, and if your gods help you, they will do it. Maybe that's what it means. If you will be doing. I need to look this one up because I'm not satisfied by this translation. What verse is it? It is 68. Yeah, I'm not satisfied with this translation because it could mean something completely different. 68. So when I'm stuck with this Quran I always use Quran.com. They concluded, "Burn him up to avenge your gods if you must act." Okay, so my understanding was incorrect. So if you must avenge your gods, burn him. And what does fey upon you mean? Shame on you. Okay, shame on you. They said, "Burn him and help your gods if you will be doing," which means if you want to avenge them, this is what you do. "We," God said, "O fire, be you coolness and safety for Abraham." And they wanted to harm him, but we made them the worst losers. Now let me stop here, because then it goes on into the stories of the other prophets. Isn't this remarkable? They've covered Abraham's story um, in such a seamless summary, where the chapter first has a converted structure, if you recall, and it's some sentences are hard to decode, and then all of a sudden Abraham's story starts. Now, people dispute about the time when he was alive, but we know he was before Moses, he was before Joseph, because it was Joseph, it was Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, and Benjamin. And Abraham, Ishmael, blah, 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 Prophet Muhammad, these people. So we call him the grandfather, or we call him Abrahamic, or these three religions of Islam, Christianity, and Judaism as Abrahamic religions because they come under Abraham, the grandfather. His father, as far as I recall, Azar or something, what was his name? I forgot what he did. If I'm not mistaken, if I'm mistaken, please don't take my words as gospel. But if I'm not mistaken, he would make idols, or he was part of some group or a profession which would contribute to this practice. And Abraham obviously was questioning. He was obviously questioning it. And when he would ask people, why do you worship these drawings? And they'd say, well, we saw our fathers do it. Isn't that how we practice religion even today? Isn't that how we carry on generational traumas willingly? How we carry on embedded beliefs or culture or tradition, customs, mores that have continued for generations upon generations? Isn't that how we do it? My dad used to do so. You ask your dad, why'd you do this? Oh, well, my dad used to do so. And so on and so forth. So the central theme that I'm noticing here, because it's the same case with Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, when he goes to the pagans of Mecca and he says to them that, why are you a pagan? Why do you worship the fire and the sun? And why didn't you believe in one God? They say, well, we'll follow the religion of our fathers. And I point to it because this didn't exist. You didn't write. Paper wasn't produced like it is now, and it's papyrus or papyrus wasn't available to everyone, and you couldn't just carve everything out, and the script wasn't so well developed, and there were a lot of things that had to be developed. So a lot of the world has had an oral tradition for the longest periods of time. And there were no computers, there were no typewriters, there was nothing. So when you want to defend something, you can't refer to a book. You can't say, well, let me go to my library. Indeed, a library would be a very rare thing because in that regard, the Library of Alexandria, or which is Alexander of Macedonia, he was a king. Therefore, he had a library. Not every home had their own library books because writing and publishing and printing was hard and expensive and almost impossible to do. So your defense towards something will be, well, I saw my dad do it, therefore I do it this way. In that regard, you don't need rational discourse. You don't need contestation. You don't need argumentation. You don't need fallacy and reasoning. You need to simply say, well, I have my beard this way because my father did his beard this way. And for me, that is more than enough. Which is not something that we can use today, but we still do. We just don't question it out of political correctness or something. I could simply say to my brothers, why do you do this? Well, that's how my dad did it. Have you thought about why you do it? No, I just watched him do it and I learned from him and then I ended up copying it. That's what we all do. So, such is the case with religion, such is the case with politics, such is the case with what job you do, which ends up shaping you, such is the case many times with the partner you choose and the friends you make. Everything we do, especially as a young child, is influenced by our parents. And I say that's a wonderful thing. However, to use that as a defense as you are a grown up with the faculty to think, reason, and be critical, when you have all that faculty inside you, to then say, well, I believe in fire because my dad believed in fire, the question the Prophet could simply will ask you is, well, why do you believe in fire? Well, why did he? Well, his dad. Okay, that's infinite regress. But okay, let's say your dad believed in fire. Apart from that, why do you think you do? What's the reason that you believe in fire? That you pray to fire? That's what Abraham was doing. Why do you pray to these pictures? Why do you pray to these idols? You don't believe in God. Oh, well, I'm going to destroy all these idols, and then you can ask the big one. And he left the axe or whatever next to the big one. And said, well, ask him. He's the biggest one. I said, well, obviously, he can't talk. What do you mean? He's your God and he can't talk? What? How? How is that possible? It's just remarkable. How? The debate was two-pronged, barring Hinduism, because Hinduism covers everything. It's an ocean which takes everything inside. But barring Hinduism, the debate was between monotheism and polytheism, or I would say one God and God and God in many forms and many shapes. So you worship fire, or you worship God as fire, or fire as God, and so forth. And now we also have the belief of there is no God. And I suppose Buddhism would kind of touch upon that, and parts of Hinduism would believe in nothingness. You certainly have that. It's an interesting thing, this debate that you have. And then they threw him in fire to punish him. And my mum taught me this quotation, this verse in Urdu, which is बेखतर कूद पड़ा आतिश नमरूद में इश्क अक्ल है महव तमाशा लबे बाम अभी, which means without fear, the beloved of the Lord jumped into the flames of Nimrod. The intellect is still deciding whether to jump or not, but because you love with reckless abandon, you just jump. You take a leap of faith, and the leap of faith is always protected by God. Whereas when he jumped into the fire, he turned it into a metaphorical bed of roses. So the fire became cool, and he was in the flame but not being burned, because God made the flame. God can cool the flame. That's what we believe. And isn't it a beautiful story? And they wanted to harm him, but we made them the worst losers, and we rescued him and Lot. Lot was his nephew, to the land which we have blessed for the Alameen, the mankind and the jinn. And we bestowed upon him Isaac and a grandson Jacob. Each one we made righteous, also prophets. And we made them our leaders, guiding mankind by our command. And we revealed to them the doing of good deeds, performing salat or prayer, and the giving of zakat or charity, and of us alone they were the worshippers. And remember Lot, we gave him hukm, which means hikm or hukm, right judgment of the affairs and prophethood, and religious knowledge, and we saved him from the town folk who practiced al-khabaith, which is evil, wicked, and filthy deeds. I feel like I've covered this before, but sodomy, homosexuality, it was practiced in those times. Verily, there were the people given to evil and were fasiqun, which is rebellious, disobedient to God, and we admitted him to our mercy. Truly, he was of the righteous. And remember Noah, when he cried to us aforetime, we answered his invocation, saved him and his family from the great distress. Now, Noah is such a remarkable story. We helped him against the people who denied our verses. Verily, there were people given to evil, so we drowned them all. And remember David and Solomon, when they gave judgment in the case of a field in which the sheep of certain people had pastured at night, and we were witness to their judgment. Okay. I don't think I need to refer to this. And we made Solomon to understand the case, and to each of them we gave hukm, the right judgment of affairs, and prophethood and knowledge. And we subjected the mountains and the birds to glorify our praises along with David. And it was we who were the doer of all these things. I want to just see if there is a further detail, because there's exegesis regarding it. I just want to know what it's talking about. Okay, so in islamicstudies.info, is that the best one I can use? I thought Quran.com also had a lovely explanation. There we go. Do I have any detail? No, I don't. I have a Kathir, maybe. The story of the people whose sheep pastured at night in the field. How long is this? Oof. Well, I praise Solomon, he did not condemn, then he enjoyed. I am trying to see. Maybe I can come back to this later, because this is going in too much detail and I don't need that much detail. I just want to be able to explain the story. No, this is just a translation. No, I need an explanation. Sorry, pardon me. So it goes from verse 78 to 81, and it says this. 78. The judgment for tillage people. According to Muslim commentators on the Quran, the incident described relates to an episode when someone's herd of goats trespassed onto another person's field at night. The aggrieved person petitioned the Prophet David, who decided that the goats should be taken from their owner and given to the aggrieved person. The Prophet Solomon, on the other hand, disagreed with this judgment, holding that the goats should only be retained by the aggrieved party until the field was restored to its original state by the owners of the goats. The Quran, however, it says, does not provide any details about the case, nor is there any information about the matter in the Hadith. Authority of the Prophet cannot be said, therefore. Okay, yeah, I think that should be enough. So it's simply talking about how the father and the son gave different reasoning when they gave judgment. David and Solomon, when they gave judgment in the case of the field, we were witness to the judgment. And we made Solomon to understand the case, and each of them we gave hukm and knowledge, and we subjected the mountains of the birds to glorify our praises along with David. And it was we who were the doer of all these things. Great. So God exercised justice through Solomon, and we taught him the make. Well, it's true. Before I go to the next verse, at that time, written law is a rarity. So there's no Magna Carta, there's no constitution, there's no biblical text, Quranic text that you follow and say, well, everyone knows this is why I'm wrong. So you would have interlocutors who jump in the middle and help make judgments. Now, if you cross into somebody else's field, that's one thing, because you're a sovereign person who can make their own decisions. But if sheep do it, is it really your fault? Because it's the animals and the sheep, and a shepherd can only shepherd them for so long. They sometimes do their own thing. So David had said that, oh, you take his sheep, and that's it. And Solomon said, no, take the sheep until the field grows back, because you could get food out of the sheep or share them or make a sweater or whatnot, or exercise leverage. The money you lose or the leverage you lose because of the lost field can be gained back by owning sheep and selling them back to their original owner if you need to, but only do it until the field grows back. It's smart. It's smart, it's a hierarchy of judgments. And we taught him the making of metal coats of mail for battle to protect you in your fighting. Are you then grateful? And to Solomon, we subjected the wind strongly raging, running by his command towards the land which we had blessed, and of everything we are the all-knowers. Solomon had so many wonderful things. His father killed Goliath, and his father had a wonderful singing voice. Wonderful singing voice. Solomon was the great king. And Solomon could control the wind, and he could speak to jinn and animals, and he had control over a lot of things. Solomon, something special. And of the Satan devils from the jinn, of the shayateen devils from the jinn, were some who dived for him, and other work besides that, and it was we who guarded them. I don't want to take a deep dive into this one because there is reference to miraculous happenings during the time of Solomon, and I can explore them later. I don't think they are necessary to be expanded upon right now in the chapter for Abraham. Not Abraham, the prophets. But there have been stories about a jinn or a human being possessing the knowledge to carry Solomon's throne and the platform in the blink of an eye to the Queen of Sheba, if I'm not mistaken. And there's also stories, but I don't have the references on hand, and I'm not going to include the references for now because I don't think it adds to the chapter, but I'm just going to share the story. And there are stories about a very deeply buried dome or a mosque which a human being or jinn dives deep to bring out from the water, and you find that there's a young child inside praying to God, not praying for life, but praying for safety, because he had said, oh my Lord, put me in a place where even Satan can't reach. So God put him in the depth of the ocean. Now, these are folkloric hearsay stories. I don't have the references, nor am I going to look for it now. But perhaps that's what it means. But some who dived for him and did other work besides that, and it was we who guided them. And remember Job when he cried to his Lord, verily distress has seized me, and you are the most merciful of all those who show mercy. I just want to look at the Arabic version of this verse. It is 83. Yeah. It's a powerful prayer. Verily distress has seized me, and you are the most merciful of all those who show mercy. Job, the patience of Job. Job is a story. Yeah? So we answered his call, and we removed the distress that was on him, and we restored his family to him that he had lost, and the like thereof along with them as a mercy from ourselves and a reminder to all those who worship us. And remember Ishmael and Enoch and Dhul-Kifl or Isaiah, all were from among as-Sabirun, the patient. Enoch was I think Methuselah's grandfather. Just Enoch and Methuselah. Enoch and Methuselah was Enoch, father of Methuselah, sorry, is known for walking with God and being taken by God without dying. Methuselah known for his exceptionally long life, the oldest person mentioned in the Bible. Yeah, Enoch or Idris is a very important figure, and Methuselah was his son, and Dhul-Kifl and Ishmael, obviously son of Abraham. And we admitted them to our mercy, verily they were of the righteous. And remember Jonah. When he went off in anger and imagined that we shall not punish him the calamities which had befallen him, but he cried through the darkness, saying, La ilaha illa anta, none has the right to be worshipped but you, O God, glorified and exalted be you above all that evil they associate with you. Truly, I have been of the wrongdoers. So we answered his call and delivered him from the distress, and thus we do deliver the believers who believe in the oneness of God, abstain from evil and work righteousness. Jonah, I wonder if I've covered it before. I think I have covered it before. Jonah and the whale. in Islam. I'm wondering if I've covered it in a chapter. It's about faith, repentance, and divine mercy, which is the story, which is we see Yunus. Yeah, so he went off in a huff, as we say in England. He was doing something, it wasn't bringing the rewards or the progress that he wanted, so he went off and said, "No, I don't want to do this." And then he was swallowed, among a few other things, and then he was swallowed by a whale and kept there until he prayed to God for mercy, and then God brought him back to the earth. But that is the ocean deep is scary in and of itself. Imagine being in the mouth of a whale while in the ocean deep. And remember Zechariah when he cried to his Lord, "Oh my Lord, leave me not single, childless, though you are the best of the inheritors." So we answered his call. We bestowed upon him Yahya, John the Baptist, and cured his wife to be a child for him. Verily, they used to hasten on to good deeds, and they used to call on us with hope and fear, is to humble themselves before us. Obviously, we know who John the Baptist was at the time of Jesus Christ. And she who guarded her chastity, Mother Mary, Virgin Mary, Maryam, we breathed into the sleeve of her shirt or garment through our ruh, our spirit, Gabriel, and we made her and her son Jesus a sign for mankind and jinn. I just want to see if it's a long footnote now. Okay, I think I should stop here. I'll stop at verse 91 because then it goes on to another direction, and I think it's a good place to stop. A lot has been covered. Talked about Abraham, and we talked about Lot, and we've talked about Methuselah and Enoch and Isaiah, and we've talked about Noah, and we've talked about Zechariah, and we've talked about John the Baptist, and we've talked about Job and Jonah, and we've talked about Jesus Christ. That's a lot of great people that we've covered. Obviously, there's Hud, and there's Saleh, and there's Moses, and there's Adam, and there's a few others, but we've covered a huge chunk. I don't have much to add because I think I've argued my points while I was doing the translation, but it's an important chapter because what it's doing is it's arming Prophet Muhammad in his debate. It's teaching him names and stories which he can use as defense. Because again, there was no writing. You can't write and send letters. There was no writing. It's rare to write, rare, and it's an oral tradition. So while speaking, and when you speak it in verse and share these ideas in verse, then that's a whole other game. It's a whole other story. But I will stop right here. I've been going on for almost half an hour. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend ahead and long weekend here because we have John the Baptist, St. John Baptist Day on Tuesday.